Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Hot Takes League of Legends Edition, also known as the Doran Hate Club, as as we saw in the comments last time. But
The
it's fine.
comments,
Listen. He can take a bit of stick, all right. He's a world champion. Like at the end of the day, I don't think he'll watch or listen anyway. It's fine. And in any case, he's staying on T1 as well, which is more good news for the Doran fan club, which we saw again in our comments last time. And yeah, that's
Sorry, I have to go 1 second.
all
Sorry
right,
for
all
that.
right, all right. But yeah, that's obviously the main basis of this episode then, where just all roster stuff going mad. Yesterday, I think it was, right, that the LCK off season like officially started. So that's when we start getting all of like the announcements of players leaving, but then also players re-signing, and it's all a bit mental the last 24 hours. And I guess we'll just start with the biggest one that was dropped before free agency started, actually, of Gumayusi leaving T1. I guess, guys, what was your just first reaction when you saw that?
You want to start, Davide?
Yeah, can I be honest? Expected but not expected.
Oh, really?
As
You expected it?
in, no, I mean like, I honestly wouldn't have wanted that as a result. But like considering everything that went down, and also what basically the people were saying about how the situation has been dealt, I feel like I think there are like two different takeaways that we can take from this. So the first one is that T1 try to basically learn from their lesson from last year, because apparently they already had Peyz ready as backup, because they didn't want to get, I guess, not like screwed, because I don't think that's the correct way, but just like they didn't want to risk having a situation where like they didn't have someone ready like last year, because like Doran was picked up in kind of a spur of the moment. I would assume, because he was leaving Home Alive, and like he had no team, and so they decided to go for someone who still has good potential, is young, and technically has been a great ADC for like the past few years. And the other one is that, I mean, just Guma being, how do you call it? I guess very uh clear on what his stance was about like what happened this year. So like the fact that he is now leaving meant that there was no way that he wanted to have a repeat, or potentially have a situation where he could end up being roster swapping, or like being replaced at the start of the season once again. So from each side, I would kind of see it as being as a rational thing. From fandom perspective, obviously it wouldn't be a good one, because obviously it's like another piece of the DFGK, and then DFGK roster gone. But I'm still like trying to be somewhat how can I put it, somewhat rational with the business reasoning behind the T1's decision to try and make, because obviously I don't think they would have wanted to, uh, from a money perspective, pay more, like pay increasingly more because of Guma's value right now.
Yeah.
But also at the same time, him probably just wanting to be out, because he didn't want to deal with all the pressure, and maybe also some of the stuff like that mentally has been affecting him, in terms of like the harassment that he's been getting over the past few years, especially in the last year, I think.
Yeah.
And
So
yeah,
it's just an unfortunate situation, I think, from my from my thought.
I also think that when you're an AGC, you can pretend to a lot of to big salaries, right? Like, because we know that the role, the role you play on the map is has a value in terms of how you're gonna get paid. For example, Keria is the most paid support in the league, but he is not paid that much compared to many others players that are playing AGC, mid lane and everything. Even though he's the best at his role for a few years, right? So I do think that his market value is way higher than maybe what T1 can pay, as well as the salary of owner, as well as the salary of Keria, as well as the salary of Faker. I do think that he can just pretend to weigh more in another team, knowing what Davide said about also all the things that happened to him this year and that I think didn't help him to be at his best. Either it is confidence wise, either it is gameplay wise. So I do think that he can just have a safer and better environment elsewhere, as well as a better salary. So it just makes sense for him
Yeah.
to go, right. And I think the rumor now is that he's going to HLE, which means also that Viper is going, and we are gonna have to discuss about that too. But yeah, I think he's also gonna join Zeus again. I do think that those two players combine very well on both sides of the map, because we all know that Keria is probably the best player ever playing without resources, right? Like the best AG carry that you can have, was known to play without a lot of resources, and we can click forward without a lot of resources. While Zeus is a player that love to play strong side, and I do think that synergy-wise, it's also a big reason why T1 was so strong in the past few years. So yeah, I'm kind of hyped up to see them reunite again. I'm just wondering who will be their jungler, and if Zeka will stay too. But that's another story.
Yeah, but yeah, with Gumayusi, like there is there's so many different aspects to it as well. Like when you guys say about the salary as well, remembering back last year where they'd won Worlds, half the team needed re-signing, and that was I think sort of part of the whole drama of Zeus leaving was that all the players had presumably like agreed to re-sign with the idea that they're all re-signing together, and maybe because of that had accepted maybe slightly less salary than they could get elsewhere. So probably Gumayusi was on already this last year was probably on less salary than he knew he could have gotten if he did leave already a year ago. So you can't fault him for trying to actually get his value. HLE is meant to be the team that pays the most, like they're owned by some like mega rich, like a billionaire's son or something like that just can like spend as much money as he wants. Obviously within salary caps, I suppose. But there was a couple of interesting bits that came out of it as well, where and I don't know exactly where this comes from. A statement from a T1 representative. That I don't know who this T1 representative is, but there's a few sentences of a quote that's been doing the rounds. And there's a couple of things that go off of this, but this quote says, after this year's World Championship concluded, we had many conversations in a positive atmosphere, and both sides agreed not to disclose the detailed process. As a result, Gumayusi is taking a new challenge, blah blah blah. But that part about like
they took the learnings from the Zeus situation.
so.
I
I
think.
mean, just the fact that to have to say this publicly. Oh yeah, it's fine, guys. We've agreed not to air shit out. We've agreed that Joe Marsh isn't gonna start, making accusations to Gumayusi's agent publicly the day that he leaves this time, and end up with the player getting loads of shit for the whole year. Very nice of you, T1. I'm glad that you and the player could come to this mutual decision that your employees aren't going to slander him and cause him a load of grief. So that was nice of them. But then also, so there's
Funny that both Zeus and Guma end up in HLE after leaving T1. Actually, it shows how much HLE are strong in terms of money, right? I guess.
Absolutely. And yeah, so there's now there's a Reddit post on the top of r/League of Legends at the moment with explaining a report from Korea. I don't know like who the outlet is or what. So I'm not one to say how likely this is to be true or not. But there's apparently a source familiar with T1 who had said that the org had actually decided that they were going to make a change before Worlds had happened. which also goes against that statement that says after this World Championship we had discussions with Gumayusi and then it was decided to part ways. So apparently from within the org, they had agreed or they had decided already that it was going to be a change. There was one thing I was watching Summoning Insight earlier, and Yamato Cannon was like sort of theory crafting that maybe it could have been that they were going to try and get Peyz and once again would try to have like a dual ADC thing, and Gumayusi was just like, no, I'm not doing that. Because there was also apparently the rumor that if he was going to re-sign, he wanted a clause that said he couldn't be benched and he would always be the starter as well. I have no clue where that came from, so that's even less reliable than any of the others. But yeah, another one maybe like last year, where over a couple of weeks, maybe some more crumbs will come out to actually paint the full picture eventually to see exactly how it went down. Because it was all, I mean, clearly it was all done and decided for the off-season to start. Like the day before the off-season started and the contract actually finished, they did their goodbye post and immediately the rumours were out about Peyz. So like, doesn't seem like a sudden thing like what happened with Zeus last year.
Yeah, it looks like it was already predicted, right? And actually, I do think that it would make sense that they took the decision before Worlds even, because looking at his Worlds, you don't want to get rid of Gumayusi actually. Like he had an insane performance, and I don't know how much it impacted his like performances before Worlds actually. If he maybe knew about it already before Worlds, maybe that's why he wasn't performing at his best after MSI, because I think at MSI he was already playing very good, but then in summer he was not looking that great to me. While at Worlds he looked completely insane, right? So maybe he had that bad part of the season because of of those reasons. You know, we know how it can mentally affect the players. And then at Worlds he just knew that he had to make the most out of it, and also he kind of knew that if he wants to have a good market value, he has to perform well, right? And actually, he performed out of his mind. Like he was looking like the best AG in the world, and maybe even the best player in the world. Honestly, like he completely deserved that MVP of the final. Yeah, I just feel like this player is so good at playing without resources on his own, at dragging his teammates to around him to, you know, play decisive and crucial situations for him, you know, while it doesn't even bother them for the whole early game, right? Like he can play on his own and then just have pop-off moments whenever needed, or just have um, such a good approach to team fights that he will just make the most out of it anyway, you know, even if he's not that great in the state of the game, even if he's like completely alone, he will make the most out of it. And I just feel like it's what you ask for from an ADC, right? Like it's exactly that he can play whatever the situation is in team fights, that he can click forward. And Guma is just the best at it this year, and like at Worlds at least, he was completely the best at it.
Yeah.
Maybe the Doran fan base will kind of let us like be fine with us, you know. Like guys, you see, I defend Gumayusi now.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, just to maybe to finish up on Gumayusi as well, like you really can't blame him if he would prefer to kind of get out of the T1 environment in general as well. Like it's just such high pressure, such high scrutiny. Like you think last year, I think it was last year, right, when like there was that video of Faker like literally banging his head on the wall, like from not doing well in like the regular season.
Against after a match against Chovy.
Yeah, like I can't imagine like what the pressure must be like, what their social media must be like after every game, and obviously Gumayusi is like massively famous anyway. Like he's still gonna have, you know, it's not gonna change completely, but just I think kind of getting out of T1 would probably calm that a bit. I would think, and yeah, as we said, it probably pays a lot better as well. So can't really fault him. Speaking of Doran though, our world champion top laner, who is and to be fair, I didn't really disparage him. It was you guys doing it more last week, so I'm going to say he's the best top laner in the world. I love him. He's my favorite player, Doran. So I'm really glad that he's re-signed for T1. But yeah, he's re-signed. So
No, but actually, like to be totally honest, he was very good all year, right? Like I never said that he was because I think
yeah.
it's mostly me that kind of they gave some shot to him. But to be honest, like I think he was top 5 all year long, right?
Listen, being the worst
But
player on
top,
the world's winning team is not like a massive insult. Let's be real.
what do you mean? Sorry.
Being
There's always going to be someone who
yeah,
kind of
being the
looks a little
worst,
bit
yeah,
worse.
being the worst player on the team that wins the world championship is not
Of
a
course, yeah,
terrible
exactly.
position.
And he was like he was top 5 in top lane all year. Like he is the top 5 top laner in the world. You know, like it's a great achievement. Like it's very good, right? And he's very solid too. I think it's the main thing with him is that he's very solid and consistent. Um, I just do think that first when pressure rises is not the best still. Like he still has these bad moments throughout this world when there was a lot of pressure. But I also do think that um, he's very good at weak side. And yeah, just that I think that the 4 players that I put above him in T1 with a year of synergy building and everything would have done a performance that would be at least as good as he did. Because he did a good performance, right? He didn't do bad this world. I just do think that the 4 players that are above him could have done kind of the same performance in the end. That's what I'm saying.
Fine, it's fine. So yeah, he's re-signed. So the only difference really for T1 then is just the bot lane. So there wasn't like announcements about the rest, but Owner, Faker, and Keria are all still under contract. So it doesn't seem like likely at all that any of those would change. With Peyz then, is that what do you guys see as the difference? Because I was seeing people say that like his floor is probably higher, so probably maybe more consistent than Gumayusi, but maybe you're not going to get like the kind of performances that we had from Gumayusi at Worlds.
I think I agree with that. Yeah, I think I agree with that. I think his floor is a bit higher. I don't know about his ceiling because honestly, Gumayusi is probably the best stage in the world when it comes to ceiling and when it comes to clutch moments and all that stuff. And actually, the thing with Peyz also is that he tends to struggle in the high pressure moments. But again, now we will play with T1, and he can be on a better like
Do or die though.
formation center. Yeah, he can be on a better formation center than this one when it comes to high pressure moments and knowing how to deal with them. Right? Like look at Doran. Even though he didn't play, like even though he wasn't the best, he still kind of overcame all the problems he had on this high pressure moment to actually win world title in the end. Was something he was struggling in the other years with Gen.G, with all the other teams he played, actually, and everything. And I do think that Peyz, it was exactly the same thing with Gen.G. Like I remember that last semi-final against T1, he actually was the one who struggled in the final. I think Lehens was a lot also like you could have put a lot of blame to on Lehens, but I do think that the last move that they lost when he makes it he takes it a step too far and Keria just stun him on his spike and Skarner just follow up and he doesn't press his flash button and all that stuff. Like it's high pressure moment that he didn't handle well, right? But on the other hand, I think that with JGG this year, he played outstandingly well, given his mid laner performances. Like high respect to Scout, but his year was horrible, like really horrible. Um, and actually, there's also some rumors that maybe he will come back to LCK to Nongshim, and good luck to Nongshim if he plays in the same level that he played with JGG. But anyway, I do think that Peyz is just a very talented player that we haven't seen. Like we haven't seen the best of him yet. So I do think that he has a very high ceiling, but I just don't think I think, and as you said, he has an insane floor, which means that he will always play consistently very well, right? It's just those high pressure moments that are kind of the question mark right now. And but yeah, overall, in a span of a full year, I think he he will do better than Guma. It's just when the best moment, the biggest and most important moment comes that I'm kind of wondering how he will do.
And I think
Honestly,
But
I have a different take.
but just one
I have a
thing for
different
Total,
take here. Yeah.
yeah, they have kind of the same champ pool too. Like he's very good on Kalista, he's very good on Ashe, he's very good on those kind of player. And the only other thing that Peyz has is that he's like very very mechanically gifted and very very good on those. Like not saying that Guma is not, but you get what I mean. Um, he's very very insane on G hyper carries too. But I think the way Peyz want to play the game is by winning lane, which is a big thing.
My thought, like, I haven't watched that much of Gen.G this year, I guess. But like my impression of Peyz is that his floor is kind of similar to Guma.
Okay.
I'm not uh in the sense that it's not like Peyz's floor is lower to how you're saying it. It's more like I think Guma's floor is not as low.
Okay.
And on the other hand, my thing is that it obviously kind of comes down to how T1 wants to play and whether they'll try to. Because the impression that he gave me this year with Doran is like, oh, don't worry, play to your own thing, and then we'll adjust. So I guess T1 will kind of go through that phase once again where they'll have to learn and see whether it's Peyz willingly to morph itself into the way that T1 played with Guma, which is obviously their comfort zone, whether as to whether like T1 will have to then adjust to Peyz once
Yeah.
again.
And I
Both
think it
will
will be interesting
need.
too because he is, as I said, I think he's way more of a player that wants to play the strong side than Guma.
Yes, but also I think it kind of comes down to ultimately the meta. We don't know
Of
where
course, yeah.
how the meta will be. I think there are like new season, there's like going to be a lot of stuff from the league side. I'm not sure what those changes will be, but like there will be some stuff. Um, I think I think that the fact that they got Peyz is definitely a sign that they kind of still want to run a similar team, I guess. Because like I think, like you said, Peyz has quite a wide champion pool. Like champion pool, he can play a lot of things. It's quite obviously young and mechanical, so you don't have issues over his own quality, like own individual skills. It will ultimately come down to will how quickly he will adapt to T1 and whether they can then raise the potential. The one thing I'm mainly looking at will be whether T1 will be looking to change the way they play with their jungle support with Peyz, because like you said, Guma was often being the one not like left alone, but just like he on the slightly weaker side, and then you would have Keria and Owner moving up together to make stuff happen on the map. I'm wondering whether Pey's arrival and like you said, and his kind of tendency to play more for laning phase will change that dynamic. Because like over the past 3 years, we've always praised Owner and Keria as like the GOAT jungle support. I guess we could
Yeah.
even see it this world.
And Guma played
Um,
a lot on that regard, I think.
Yeah, and like he obviously like there'll always be like League of Legends is a game where you have to balance things out, so there will always be someone who will be kind of sacrificed in the process. Um, and Peyz wasn't really that player, I think, when he was
Yeah,
playing both
I
on
agree.
Gen.G and especially on JDG. So I want to see whether he can be like that, because obviously you need a lot of um nerves in that sense to see the patterns, see certain plays that you shouldn't go for just because you're kind of left out in that sense. The positive thing for me is that it makes sense from T1's, like once again I'm trying to always think it from a business perspective. Is that like Peyz is super young. They can literally morph him into another Zeus or like another Guma, if they want to, and if they think that Peyz is at the level that they think he's at. Um, and this guy like has probably been the youngest prospect since Ruler. I mean, not like since Ruler, but just like this guy was only subbed out, like kicked out because Ruler was coming back. Otherwise, Gen.G would have never kicked him. And like this guy has already played like three competitive seasons. Am I wrong?
I think he's played
At
two
least
as
two,
well.
no?
Two, yeah.
Two competitive seasons
2023
into
and
his third
2024. Yeah.
one, and this guy is like not even 20.
No, actually,
Oh yeah, it is
actually,
his third
maybe
season,
three.
this, isn't it? Yeah.
I think it's his third. It was his third season because he played 2 seasons with Gen.G
Yeah.
Yeah,
and one
yeah.
with JGG. So
This
going
guy,
on
this
4
guy,
seasons.
this guy is turning 20 next month.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's
I'm
what.
like,
Yeah, he started at
what?
17. It's crazy.
Yeah. So honestly, like, it's probably the best profile you could get, and probably like Peyz was also willingly coming to T1. I'm not sure about his price, but I don't think it would be
Probably not crazy.
that high. It would have been crazy high, especially compared to what JGG probably was paying him last year. So like the fact that he also recognized that like T1 is like the golden opportunity to like make another jump in his career is a clear sign that this guy is also willing to not like sacrifice himself, but just like uh trade off a little bit and then see if he can take it and like take it to the next level, you know.
Yeah. I was gonna say like about his age because the fact that he's been around for 3 years already, like you can so easily forget how young he is still. I was comparing it to when Gumayusi like first came into T1's main roster, and I think Peyz right now is something like maybe like 6 months older than Gumayusi was when he first made the jump to Tier 1. So yeah, in terms of like comparisons, he's basically like 2.5 years ahead of where Gumayusi was when he first came in. So yeah, worth the risk.
Do you know
for
that?
sure.
Do you know that Peyz dropped school to take personal lessons of League of Legends, like when he was 15 or
I
something?
did not. What, he quit school early?
Yes,
Or?
I know.
Yeah,
Yes,
he quit school.
I
Yeah,
knew about that story.
That
And also the fact that
absolutely crazy.
like his parents were willingly like hiring like high level
Yeah,
coaching
that's
to
crazy.
help him out.
I think that
yeah,
Like
it's
that
when
can
he was
like
like already
it
13
shows.
because he wanted to go pro at the time.
yeah.
It shows the cultural differences from their perspective and ours, right? Imagine saying that to your parents, like they just put a slam in your face and say, "Go back to school." Yeah.
Yeah, not like the maths tutor, like the bot lane positional coach tutor after school. That's mad. He might end up like getting the you know like how BDD got out of military service because he was and I think Faker had it as well before Age of Games. Like if you don't finish high school, then you end up as like a reservist, and if they don't call you up in a certain number of years, then you just skip military service. And I think for that, that's how like BDD doesn't have to go. So maybe it works out for him in bloody hell, what 8 years, 8-9 years when he'd have to go. And even if not, he's got a fair while ahead of him anyway. Right, let's look elsewhere in the LCK while we're in Korea.
The Viper is out of HLE, guys. Kind of crazy, no?
I
I
mean,
guess
From what
it's
I
his
heard,
choice, right?
I read the rumor that it's in China they've been saying that BLG has basically got him.
Like
So
BLG
yeah,
2024,
I don't know
yeah,
if you
but
want to
with
talk about
Viper.
that first.
yeah. Actually, they said I think that like the agent of Viper was spotted in the BLG office. So yeah, like he just legit took a picture and posted that on his Instagram. So kind of like it's not very sneaky, but yeah, I think it's kind of crazy. I heard that if Viper is going to BLG to LPL is to play with Knight, which
Yeah,
will
that
be
was what I was
crazy
saying.
to me.
Like he would like he wanted to go to play with Knight. That was the reason he might go to LPL
Yeah.
with whatever team. Because I was seeing like JDG
Yeah.
was trying to get them both or something as well, right?
Yeah, I also heard that JGG is looking to make a super team again. So let's see, but yeah. Anyway, having Knight and Viper in the same team, I think you already have the top 2 carries in the world, right?
And
I
yeah,
mean,
so
on paper,
it's meant to be
individually
the
speaking, yes.
Individually
I'm
speaking,
not
yes,
sure
of
about
course.
Knight. I'm not sure about Knight when you have Chovy. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I said top 2. I said top 2.
Oh, in that sense. Okay, okay, yeah, okay, fair. Covering your
Yeah, the top
ass.
2 carries. But yeah, no, I do think that like, to me, Viper was, and I think we already talked about it, but Viper was dragged down by HLE this year. Not gonna lie. Like, I think he was the most consistent player in the team, and I do think that his jungle mid were kind of, let's say they had up and downs, but the downs were very bad. Like it was, I think it weighed a lot on his shoulders, and we could see it in the Gen.G semi quarterfinals, right? Um, so I'm kind of wondering who will be his support, because I'm not sure there is that much support. There are that much support that are, very good in LPL right now.
The rumor I was
I do
seeing
think
is
that
it's literally
maybe
the like
Kale
2024 roster, but just with Viper on it instead of Elk.
also is on then. And so it will mean that it will be Shadow in the jungle.
No, 2024. I think it was Jun. I think.
Oh, so Shun. They're
Yeah.
bringing back Shun? No, I don't think it's possible, right?
I
After
think they're
the
bringing back
drama.
Shun. I
Really?
think. I mean, it
So
will only
they.
make sense. 'Cause my thought for BLG is like if they made if they found a way to keep Knight Bin on and then bring in Viper like they are saying, they must have gotten someone pretty good in the jungle as well. Because
Yeah.
otherwise, you're not going to create a roster to look to win it all. But then you have, I'm not saying like a shit jungler, but just like not having a top tier jungler. And I think if out of all the like players who have the potential to be world class in the LPL, I think it's only him right now. The my biggest thing for BLG is that they actually decided to drop the full Chinese squad thingy.
Yeah, that's true.
It's like if Viper is true, I mean, Viper is probably the least Korean, like least Korean guy you can ever pick up aside from
He
like
won
the
wars with
Windy or something
EDG, bro.
like that. Like this guy is Chinese fluent,
He
but
was he won wars
it's a clear
with
sign.
EDG.
It's a clear sign that they decided to like drop the whole thing and now just try to go for results, which I think is actually a better thing.
Well,
Like
they just had an
increases your
Italian
chances of
jungler anyway.
I'm not going. Yeah, exactly. You know, it's another clear sign that they're
Yeah,
willing
didn't he lose
to
his
go
Chinese
way beyond
passport?
to go way beyond it. And I'm really excited. I just want to see how like all the other LPL teams will look like because you can have the best team in the league, but then if the other teams are not as good, then by the time you get to internationals, you're going to get stomped anyway. And also I'm really looking interested in the coaching staff because I'm not sure if Tabby, because I think they said JDG found Tabby,
Oh,
which
really?
then raises my question on who will be BLG's head coach.
I heard
And
Tabe
I'm
was
really
out of
concerned
AL.
about that.
I heard that Tabe was out of AL, but I didn't heard about the JGG thing.
I heard some rumors that apparently like he's going to JDG. I think it was initially like one of the top like one of between BLG and JDG. I think like if JDG is getting good players like people have been saying, getting Tabi on is probably the best shot. Um, I'm just wondering whether Viper uh, will actually like be able to increase the BLG's potential compared to Elk. Because I don't think like it's like even though like Viper is insanely good, and obviously I think he's obviously an upgrade over Elk. I'm not sure that the team dynamic will make them much better than they.
I'm not
I
sure
mean,
changing an ADC is the right thing to
yes,
change the team dynamic.
yes,
Yeah, I totally
exactly.
agree.
Even though like you can argue like BLG did shit this year with like their worst performance, it was still like pretty good team on paper. This team won LPL summer finals. Um, so I'm mainly looking like at how the jungler and the coach will be before making a clear judgment on
Yeah,
on
I agree.
on on what the roster will like potential will look like.
Especially jungle actually. And yeah, but I actually I wonder how it will go for like if he actually does go to BLG and the four like the three players stay the same. I wonder how his synergy with On will go because the thing is I think Viper is the most consistent AGC in the world, but I do think that On might be the most inconsistent support in the world. So like when he is at his peak, this guy is the best player in the world, but can have some very horrible games too when he's on a bad day. So yeah, kind of wondering like maybe Viper will be the key to actually get On more consistent.
He must be getting paid a pretty penny as well. Like, because I can't imagine HLE weren't offering him to stay. So if you think like between HLE and then JDG, if they were trying to, if
Maybe
JDG
not.
wanted to,
Maybe not if they heard Guma if they heard that
oh,
Guma
true,
was
yeah, true,
probably in. It's a possibility, right?
yeah,
But
true.
but yeah, I heard since the start of the season that the JDG BLG dynamics will be you know kind of the key of this off season in LPL. So I'm kind of wondering who will JGG get if Viper do sign in at BLG. Like who can they get to have that much of a super team? Right now that is not like already taken by a Korean team or by BLG basically.
Yeah.
And actually, another thing that I think we should discuss is the fact that AL, I think they extended the contracts of all the 5 players, right? But Tabe is out. And I do think that the recipe with Tabe was just the best. So it's kind of anticlimactic, I would say. Like it's like I
Yeah.
don't know on which fit to dance. Like I kind of guess that Tabe must have had an insane bag, to from either JGG or BLG to quit AL, knowing the potential of that team, knowing that he had built an insane synergy, knowing that he's probably the biggest fan of Tarzan, for example. So yeah, I'm kind of wondering, knowing that all these players will stay in AL, why did he leave outside of an insane bag of money, right?
I
Good
think
question.
from Tabi's side, it's always like a challenge. Like I'm trying. I'm not like I don't want like to really speculate, but I'm just like thinking from my perspective is like, what if aside from the money thing, like Tabi thinks that he already reached the full potential that the team could achieve, and he couldn't really like do much more.
Ah, I'm not sure
And
about
like
that, bro. They were
when
so
you're
close at
presented with the
MSI at
offer
World.
of
They
building
were so close.
another insane roster and proving yourself once again that you're like the best coach in the world, would probably be a better thing for himself. You
But they
know,
were so
I
close, man. They
wouldn't.
were so close, both
But
at
I'm still
MSI
like
and
I
Worlds.
still think that like AL getting like only a top 8 sounds so bad for the team because like if you're judging by the results that they played against T1, you would argue that they were the best team. Like they
Yeah.
were the second best team in the tournament. And probably
Okay,
then
I'm
you
even gonna
would
say it. I'm even gonna say it, even though there's still one fan in the comments that will shout at me. I think AL was the better team overall in this match, even though they lost.
no, I mean, but I partially agree with that. But like, there's always like in hindsight,
Of course,
it's
yeah.
I think like AL has always struggled with the clutch with the what you were saying as in the clutch factor. Like if you think about all the best of 5 series they had that
Yeah.
like during this year, they were always ahead, like close to like beating the other teams, but then never clutched it out in the game 5. So for me, it's like maybe Tabi also realized that that's the max he can draw from the players in, or maybe there were like other stuff going on. I'm not sure, but like I wouldn't think it's necessarily a bad thing if the all the rosters that they're like if the roster that he's going to work with next month are clearly better or on paper have higher potential. my question is like now, like we've been talking about BLG and getting like the super players. Like I'm still wondering who JDG is on because it looks like they lost Peyz, Scout is gone, Shun will be gone technically. So like, which players are you getting? You know, I'm
I've
not
just
sure that they're necessarily better than the ones that you have on AL.
I was just scrolling this, this Twitter account, that like aggregates all like the Chinese rumors. I was just scrolling it quickly to see like all the
Yeah.
mentions of JDG. There was one from like lunchtime today that just listed the players that they were interested in. There was Zhaozhu, Kanavi, but Kanavi looks like it's going elsewhere. Cream, Gala apparently was the backup if they couldn't get Viper, and Vampire if Mako wasn't playing. And Mako is said that he's having a break.
Vampire is really
Yeah,
is
like
really the polar bear in
Maker's not
the in
playing.
Arlington.
Like, I don't know. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, just judging by the names, obviously there's going to be some bias because like Aya played at Worlds and played at MSI, but like I rate Xiaoshu on similar levels of Flandre. I'm not sure like jungler who that will be. Like I think still jungler is super important. So whoever they get, they must get someone really good. Like Cream has been fine, but
Also,
like
another rumor is
still
that Cream is
a
re-signing
tier
with
like
TES anyway,
it's probably
so
on
it
par
might not
with
even be.
Shanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then probably like Gala would be I would still consider like a side grade compared to like Peyz or like a slight upgrade in terms of like carry potential. And then Vampire has been being very like praised a lot recently, but like
To me, it's
do you still
it's the
like
polar
would you
bear
think
in
it's
Arlington,
better than
Texas.
KL who literally was the second best support throughout the
Of course, no.
entire year, you know? Is what I'm saying. Like you could argue that they could upgrade in the roles that they think they were worst at, which is like top and AD. But like I don't think like losing if you lose Tarzan and KL for that, I'm not sure how worth that is.
Yeah, and also like funny that we thought they would do a super team, and the last memory we have from JDG doing a super team is 369, Kanavi, Knight, Ruler, and was that missing? That was missing.
Missing.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So that was the last super team we had from JGG, and now you have those names which are like not quite the same
Yeah.
caliber, right? Like whatever we can say. Like and actually like I'm not even sure who can they get in mid lane, no? Like if they don't have Cream, who can they get? That would be actually like you know an upgrade or interesting. I'm not even sure. The fact that they broke Scouts is hurting them too much, I think. Not gonna lie.
Well, maybe
What do you
we'll.
think about Scout going to Nongshim?
Yeah, I was gonna say we'll go back to
Oof.
LCK.
Yeah, well, actually, I do think that Scouts is an insane player. Like overall, throughout the year, he has been one of the best mid laner in the world. Like his time in AGG, with AGG, he was probably the best player in the world, to be honest. When they won in 2021, but let's be honest, this year was terrible. Like he was the weak link in JGG. He was the reason they didn't went to top 4 from all year. I think no, maybe not all year, but I think they were like they were out of the top 4 for most of the year, and I think it's the main reason for that. Like Shun was insane, Peyz was insane, support was uh, but yeah, I do think that he dragged down the team overall.
I guess it's one of those that
So it's just about it's just about where his floor is situating, right? Like what will be the reason that he will perform better next year than this year? Maybe he was not at his best mental state in China or something. Maybe the fact that he will come back to Korea will unlock something in him. I don't know, but I do think that he reached the point that where he had to change something to get back to a better dynamic because this year was really, really by far his worst ever in his career.
I guess for a team like Nongshim, it's one of those that's like probably worth the risk. Like if he does get back to anywhere near like what he's been like in the past, then that's like presumably is like a massive coup for them. So makes sense for a team like Nongshim. And I guess if you're someone like Scout that's had a shit year and your stock's low, you just got to suck it up and kind of work your way back up anyway. But yeah, so one of the players that even going through the LPL or a name that we keep hearing is Kanavi. Presumably a lot of teams were after him, and there seemed to be a thing with HLE then or HLE and Gen.G, it seemed like whichever one would get out of Canyon and Kanavi, they were gonna be on Gen.G or HLE, and it seemed like a bit unsure which one would be where. In the end, it looks like Canyon, according to the rumors, is re-signing with Gen.G, and then Kanavi
to Ship Esports, I think.
Yeah, and then Kanavi is returning. Well, I say returning to the LCK. He's never played in the LCK, as far as I'm aware. He was, remember, like, he was on loan from Griffin on JDG, like way back in the day in the first place. So he's actually going to be making his LCK debut next year with HLE.
Kind of crazy.
Which is
kind
mad.
of crazy when the guy won the Asia Cup with Korea. He never played in Korea. This is kind of crazy, yeah.
Literally like one of the world's best, world's and Korea's best junglers in the last few years, and never played a game there.
But he has a very particular playstyle, that not a lot of LCK team are used to play with, like recently in the recent years, jungle in Korea outside of Kenyan that was playing with Showmaker, so they had kind of a special but unorthodox synergy, right? But outside of that, most of the junglers were playing like setup players, setup champions, and the fact that Kanavi always, like all his career, relied on the carries in the jungle is something very unorthodox. And I think that a lot of LCK teams that love to play slow, they were not familiar with that, and they didn't want it wouldn't have fit their playstyle, right? But the game is changing and shaping up in a way that I do think that carry junglers have more potential to actually like win games because of the fact that there is much more objective to fight for, because of the fact that the early game tends to go way faster, even in LCK actually. Like LCK this year was not looking like LCK the other years, where you would have 0 kills at 20 minutes in every matches, and like in most of the best team matches you would have like very steady gameplay, very by the book gameplay where they only fight for late objectives, right? And otherwise they just trade on the map. And yeah, right now the game is going way faster because of all those objectives and the way that Riot is trying to have more pace in the game. And I do think that in that sense, player like Kanavi can strive much more even in LCK.
So the only thing with them is I guess what they do with mid. Like if there is a chance to change the mid laner, like that seems to be like the glaring pain point for them. Considering the level
I don't think they will.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Like,
Who
can you get? Who can you get?
There's just no one up for grabs. And thing with Kanavi in the jungle as well, like in terms of like the kind of merry-go-round that you could get, it's almost like just like Peanut retiring has like just made the jungle pool proper difficult, because if you're one of these teams that like you lost Kanavi, there's like one less like elite player to like slot in and shift around. So I guess that's probably plays a part in why literally everyone's after him, because there is one less player available. But yeah.
But actually, I would love to see Zeka play with Kanavi, at least to know how it will look like. Because if they do play like two assassins in jungle mid, or two champions that want to invade, to play in your face, to actually like go for skirmishes, it can be very, very fun, and they can have an edge on a lot of teams. But yeah, the problem is that when Riot will find the balance with mages, then we will have a bit of trouble playing with Azeka.
Focus on the top jungle duo. That'll be nasty if they get things going.
Yeah.
Was there any other
But
ones?
yeah, but
Oh,
honestly, like you just can't get anyone better. I think right now that's the problem. All the best mid laners are already locked in Korea right now.
was there any other LCK ones that took your guys' interest? Oh, well, I guess with Gen.G as well, the thing is that all the teams, all the players, sorry, seem to be staying. So it doesn't look like there's any roster changes, except their
Coach.
the coach is out, and Ryu, like the old like KT player who played in, I think he played for H2K, right, in EU, and then he played in NA
Yes.
for a bunch of years. He is the head coach of Gen.G, and apparently was like pretty sought after. Supposedly 5 teams were after him in the LCK, and Gen.G is the one that's got him. So he's on course to maybe get his revenge over Faker finally after all these years. Imagine that Worlds Game 5, Fearless Draft. All of Chovy's stuff's been banned. Chovy locks in the Z. And Game 5 win, and Ryu gets his payback. We can dream.
I think it's a good pickup, honestly. Like there's always been a lot of. I mean, I've always thought this year that Gen.G wasn't that great when it came to like drafting. And I think
And adapting
the
to meta too.
coaching, yes, exactly, adapting mainly. And I think like a lot of that is all usually on the coach. I'm not sure what the dynamic within the team would be like, but I mean, someone like Ryu who has obviously the experience as a pro for many years, and then he's kind of, I guess, the fact that he was able to bring up Sandbox, like FearX. Sorry, I'm still all going with the old names. um, the fact that he was able to like take up FearX with aside from like Diablo, who's obviously insane with like a somewhat like normal roster. I think was a clear sign that this guy was making some stuff happening. Um, I think if Gen.G believes that this year main weakness was the coaching staff, then it makes sense that you decide to upgrade the coaching staff and you try to keep all the rest of the players. Obviously, it doesn't mean that you decided to stick with it like, I don't know, like MKOI or G2 have done. Like they're just rejecting offers and just like sticking to what they had, because I think Dura was initially being talks of being replaced by KL, but the fact that they decided to keep the 5 means that they're willing to run it back for another year, hopefully, and then
and yeah,
see
but
if the coaching staff was actually the deal, because like you still have the best mid laner in the world, one of the top ADCs, one of the best tops, and I wouldn't even consider still him as the best top laner, like the most complete all-rounded top laner in the
this year,
world.
yeah, this year
It's
for
like
sure.
why would you even like try to throw them away? And then on top of that, like, because I heard, I think it was like until yesterday before like someone came with the Kenny news that they were considering like bringing a new young talent in the jungle. I might be wrong.
Sponge, was
Yeah,
it
I think
Sponge?
I heard Sponge as well. And while it's definitely like worth the try, would you really let like not like waste a year, but like
It's a bet,
fully
yeah.
gamble a year on Allen on such an important role when you have Chovy and Ruler on a 3-year contract?
Yeah.
Like one is already gone, and they have 2 left. You need to like maximize what you can in the next 2 years, and I think getting Kenny is probably the best shot. And I think like Ryu will be kind of the person in his coaching that will be the kind of people who will try to work out a way that make Canyon kind of somewhat relevant and don't make him like a weak link, because I think he was definitely the weak link of Gen.G throughout last year. And coming from someone who rated Canyon as the best jungler prior to the last 2 seasons, because I always rated him as my number one jungler from the Dan Damwon gaming days until like when he left basically. Um, I don't think it does him, it does him well in that sense. I'm not sure what the word I'm looking for here. It doesn't make him justice, basically. Yeah.
Yep. I do agree that Canyon was the weak link this year. So yeah, I think there's a large responsibility going to the coaching staff, but also to Canyon, who was consistently the worst player of this team. Like I think outside of Spring maybe where the bot lane was kind of having a hard time finding their automatisms and everything, and even in CK Cup, especially CK Cup actually. I do think that Canyon for the rest of the year was the worst player in Gen.G. And I do think that like I expected Worlds to kind of ring a wake up call to him, to maybe have him uh, adjust to the level of play of his teammates because like even though he was the worst player in the team and it was like kind of obvious, this team won everything until Worlds, right? Still, so the fact that he stayed on that low level compared to his teammates of play at Worlds made Worlds much more harder because then you have Chovy that maybe has a mental block and that maybe has to get somehow more more supported when he plays in that stage. You have a rookie in Duro that actually played very well at World, but yet he's a rookie, right? So you can't put everything on his back. Um, and yeah, Canyon was just not up to the level uh, to actually meet those expectations and actually raise the bar when the team needed him. Uh, and yeah, I do think that bringing in Canavi would have been a bit of a gamble for Gen.G because Canyon Canyon was kind of Canavi before, and I feel like in Gen.G he had to adapt to a style that is not completely his, right? Um, and the fact that he adjusted to that style doesn't, and even though he kind of embraced it, and now he's kind of that guy that will play the most OP champion in the meta and not really rely on carrying and let the resources to his teammates and maybe just create space for them. Even though now he has become that guy and not the main carry like he was in Damwon, I do think that is not the role that suits him the most. Maybe we will change that. Maybe we'll bring on a new dynamic. I don't know. But for sure, if it doesn't change that, I think that Canavi wouldn't have been that much of an upgrade to Canyon because Canyon already adapted to that playstyle while Canavi would have had to do the same process again that Canyon did, right? Um, if Gen.G wants him to play that way, right? So yeah, I do think that as Davide said, bringing in a rookie or Sponge that made 4 splits tense with JRX, even though he looks promising or anything, it's a big gamble, very big gamble. They already took one with Duro that actually paid off a lot because to me he was the best support in the world this year. But trying with another role that is that much important as jungle um, is not the way to go to me. Like as Davide said, you have Chovy and Ruler for 1 more year. Just try to make the most out of it with what you already have, and try to build around that. Not try to rebuild a project when you know that it can be disastrous, right? Like Gen.G looks for excellence. If you have a synergy that is not going the way you want, if the rookie doesn't meet the expectations you placed on him, if he doesn't um, upgrade his play style and maybe his way to play the game as fast as you need him to, like the year is wasted basically. So yeah, even though I think Gen.G should focus more on walls than like you can't blame them for winning everything the year in the year, right? But I do think that there's something to look at in the way T1 approach a full season, where they just pick at the right time at Worlds, and I think Gen.G has to inspire a bit of on that regard because I do think that the fact that you're asking your players to maximize the efforts all year long can be bad for the long run. and maybe can hurt you when you are looking to win Worlds. And I do think that right now, Gen.G, if they do a full season where they are like third place or fourth place, but they arrive at World and they win it in a convincing fashion, I do think that everyone will be happy with the season, right? Like because they don't need to prove anything. Like they don't need to win LCK 3 times. They don't need to win MSI. They already did, right? Now what they are lacking and what they want the most is Worlds. So maybe you have to approach just the season and the full year in another way that you did so far, um, and just not repeat the same patterns, right?
It's awkward because, like, you look at the last 2 years, I don't think there's many ways you could argue apart from just saying only Worlds matters. There's no other way you could argue that they're not the world's best team for like the last 2 years. If you take it
Exactly.
kind of, if you aggregate the whole of the seasons, and if you think, okay, right, fair enough, we've got the team that has been the best in the world. We've clearly, if we want to win Worlds, we've got to make some kind of change somewhere. And if you think changing your jungler is too risky, then your other 4 players have all like definitely not been the problem, so you wouldn't want to change any of them. And the only thing left is maybe a coaching change, which, like, I can't imagine is also without risk. Like, changing a head coach feels like that should be a massive change. So it depends maybe like what the dynamics are like. Like if like certain teams, like a lot of the game direction and things could be coming from the players anyway, and maybe the coach is more for draft or for certain things. Like you do often hear sometimes like head coaches in the LCK aren't so much of like doing stuff in the game always. Like sometimes they are a bit more of like a manager kind of role. So maybe just like the direction of how the practice goes could be the difference, and the coaching philosophy there could make an impact without it being so much about what we're doing in the game. That maybe there, it's not an issue there, and the issue is more like outside the game. What happens when they get deep at Worlds and things start to crumble, and maybe the coach can like, yeah, coach with a different philosophy in terms of sports psychology or whatever could be the difference that they actually need.
I think like one consideration that um, some of the people within the scene have also talked about it, but also have been like very adamant, I think as well, was that we've started seeing a big shift in how League of Legends is being played over the past 2 or 3 years, where it's like it's a lot more about the teams, like teams' ability to play as a team, rather than just like relying on like very extremely talented players. I think there was an example where um like Rookie played a super strong series against T1 in terms of laning phase, but like even if he was able to get early leads, it didn't amount to anything because T1 was the better team at playing the team fights. So
But also because
when
the shy
that
run it down, bro.
yeah,
Also.
okay, fair, but like when when those things when such a thing matter, because like if you think about 2018 when Rookie won the world championship, we were like all praising how insanely him and the Shy were like gapping everyone else in terms of laning fundamentals.
Yeah.
I think we've shifted now to an era where like laning wise, okay, yes, obviously you need to have good fundamentals, but it's like it's not as important as it used to be. And as long as you're able to be more coordinated than the counterpart, or you're able to be strategically more how do you say, more in depth or better, just you're always going to get out ahead. And I think that's what probably Gen.G lacked this year. Or like they always made it up with just a lot of individual skills and obviously like being some of the best players. But I think like that's what Gen.G really needs to, if they really want to go for a world championship. And I think probably Ryu is the best shot they can get. I'm not sure like which other coaches they were considering, but I don't think like when we say that there's like Tabi as the best LPL coach, I'm not really sure who you would put out there as the best LCK coach. Like you could say that Koma does, like did a great job. But then who else would you really put?
Faker,
Is my question.
the real T1 goat.
Yes, exactly.
Yep. Right, let's move across to the west then, and have a look at some of the updates in the LEC. I was going through and I was sort of forgetting which ones we did and didn't speak about last week because there's stuff coming thick and fast. I thought maybe the easiest way to do it is we can just kind of look through the list of the rumors and yeah, give our thoughts as we go. Fnatic's a good one to start with because like they're the one that seems to be in the most mess, where like absolutely nothing is clear about what's happening with them. So the rumor had come out, I think last week that we spoke about it, that that Vladdy had chosen Fnatic, but that they were still trying to negotiate the buyout with KC. That still seems to be the case. So God knows what the hold up is, or if you think if a week isn't long enough to agree a fee, I'd wonder if they're going to agree one at all. And if you're Fnatic, the later it gets, the more difficult it is to plan the rest of it. Because supposedly Vladdy wants to play with Razork. It seems to be that only one of Razork and Upset will stay. I don't know what exactly the thing is behind the scenes, but they are not willing to stay together. So they'll only have one of those. Vladdy wants Razork. So if they can agree with Vladdy and get the buyout sorted, then that means Razork will definitely stay, and then they can kind of fill out the rest maybe with that. But yeah, there are some rumors about what those pieces could look like. So there's a chance Oscar Innen stays. Exakick, well, previously Exakick, now 3XA, could be coming in. In terms of support, we obviously know Mickey's gone to build his super team in SK Gaming. But then, yeah, you've got a few options, including Targamas or Jun, which apparently Fnatic had offered a 6-figure buyout a year after they let him go, which is a bit of an embarrassing look. But in general, yeah, long story short is that it's still a bit of a mess at Fnatic for once.
Yeah, and that's actually the one team that is missing this offseason. All the other teams have supposedly locked their roster. And so that's a very Fnatic thing, like to actually, be late, be the outlier of the pack. So yeah, I'm kind of wondering like right now what they're gonna do with the bot lane, because I heard they were looking at import options,
Right.
both either for AGC or support, and they are prioritizing this. And then if they can't have that, they might go for the names we have in front of us, like 3XA, Targamas, Piero, Lospa. I do think that bringing in 3XA and Piero will be a good move. Also because they had this whole year together. They already have their synergy going with KCB. I think they were a huge reason of KCB's success too. I do think that Piero will 100% fit with Razork because they are both very aggressive, and they are both very creative too. So if Razork, because actually there's also a question mark with Razork because he didn't play that good this year, right? Not at all on up to his standards of the previous years. But I do think that on paper, Razork synergy with Vladdy should be very good because Razork love to gank mid lane and Vladdy love to get pushed in. So it's something that would work quite well. Also, the fact that Razork also is someone that when he has a very talented mechanically mid laner, is always gonna get the most out of it. I remember with VTO back in the day with Misfits, even with Humanoid when they started with Fnatic. So yeah, I do think that right now it's kind of a mess, but they have some options and they could still be contenders for top 4. Like I wouldn't be surprised if with even though they are the last one to lock the roster, I wouldn't be surprised to have them still in the top 4 next year. Especially like the main thing is that this roster has a huge potential of crashing out, right? Like it can go very bad, but if they
A
get the
Fnatic
best
roster
out of it,
doing that? Are you sure?
But yeah, but that's the funny part. Like they are not easing things for them, you know. Like they are going for a roster with players that can boom out very fast, you know. So yeah, it's just if they actually can manage finally, like it would be actually an insane success for them if they could manage to get the best out of this roster. That would mean a lot. I think either for the fact that they learn from the past mistakes, but also for the fact that they are a solid structure that can and a solid org overall that can, you know, build a new legacy out of the names like Vladi, even though he's coming out of a back and forth season with a lot of inside problems on his past team and everything. I do think that if Fnatic manage to get the most out of him, get the most out of a team with a lot of ego, with a lot of players that want the attention and everything, I do think that it will mean a lot for them. And and yeah, so that's, as you said, Lee, last week. I think it's a big gamble, it's a big bet, but it's a bet that they have to take if they want to reach a new level, you know, new heights.
And I guess like if like where you're saying like the mid jungle with Vlad and Razork, like in theory should work pretty well. Maybe worst case scenario, like if their link up does look good, but maybe after winter one or two other pieces don't look great. Maybe by then there might be more options depending on what other teams are doing and trying to get rid of people. I don't know, but it would be a bit funny if like it's like the second off season in a row where they want to get rid of Oscar in and then he just stays. I'm not sure how he would feel being in that scenario. But the other kind of mad thing is that presuming that the Vladdy deal does go through, and then that means that Razork stays, and it means that Upset doesn't stay, then Upset is more than likely out of a team in the LEC, which is a bit mad when you think, you know, it's only a few months ago when he was the league MVP. So yeah, a bit mental, and I guess that's like maybe just a victim of Fnatic doing things this slowly. The one thing that, because it's weird, because with Fnatic they had like they'd secure, well they like decided to keep on grabs pretty early. I'm fairly sure, like way before the off season had even really started.
Yeah.
So for them to be now this late in the off season still deciding stuff is not a great look in that aspect. Like of all the teams who have been able to like start their process early, they were the one really. So I guess it's just all slowed down with the Vladdy situation, which I guess, you know, as we said, it is like a generational player that you do take the risk on. So if that, imagine they get him on like a 3-year contract. Okay, fair enough. Maybe you might end up with 1 or 2 rocky splits at the start of this year because the roster in general took long to build, and because you're waiting for that. Maybe you didn't get all the pieces you wanted. At least if you got him locked down for a while and you can get the best out of him, then long term it should pay off, I think.
And I do think that the options they have left are solid. Like I do think that, to me, it's even more crazy that 3XA has not found a team yet, because honestly, he has been by far the player that evolved and grew the most this year to me. Like in IRL, I wasn't expecting it, to be honest. Like I thought, looking at him going back to LFL, that he will be mid. Not gonna lie, that he will be like good, but like he wouldn't be much more. Like I didn't think he had so much to give to the game yet. Like after his time with SK, so I was very very surprised by the season he had and by the fact that he evolved a lot. Like starting the season with KCB, he was that guy that would take it a step too far and solo lose game, right? As he was already with SK at some point. But in the end of the season, he was that guy that was like kind of perfect in every aspect of the game for an ERL level, right? Like it's not like he's Chovy of AGC, but as an ERL level for an AGC, he was the Chovy really of ERLs to me in summer. So yeah, I'm just very very surprised he hasn't found a team yet. From what I heard, there's like a lot of the teams that were interested in him kind of um, looked a lot at that datas to actually make their final choice. And what they didn't like with him, I think, was the fact that he had a lot, and to me it's kind of crazy, but I heard that they looked at his stats from gold damage per goals, and that the fact that he had a lot of goals for the damage he had, so that kind of played.
It's like inefficient.
Yeah, yeah, that kind of didn't play in in his favor. But to me, it's kind of crazy because he just had a lot of gold. That's it, because his team was just the best in summer, and they were playing through bots. So to me, that's normal. That's, you know, a player with a lot of gold just don't want to. Like, to me, this stats just doesn't make sense, right? Like this stat particularly doesn't make sense to me
It's some,
because there's yeah. Go
I
ahead.
was going to say it's like a stat where it's not. It doesn't really give you insight on its own. Like you need other context. Like if you're on a team where maybe you want the AD to play safe and you want the support roaming, then it would make sense that the AD isn't completely efficient and you know, pumping out damage 24/7. Like
Yeah,
you need
and
other
actually,
context around it for sure.
if your bot laner you give a lot of resources to your bot laner, then you want him to play safe, just to not give the 700 gold shutdowns that he has, right? Like it's just normal. Um, so yeah. Anyway, I heard that it played a bit on the fact that he couldn't find a team, but obviously that's not the only reason, I guess. But yeah, I do hope that he will find a team in the end. And the only hope, like the only last hope he has, is with Fnatic. So to me, it's a playstyle that has nothing to do with upsets, apart from the fact that they love to be strong side. There's not much more to it. I think Exa is way more aggressive than upsets. So to me, like it depends. It depends a lot on what um, on what Fnatic are looking for, but I wouldn't understand that a player like 3XA doesn't find a team in LEC.
Yeah.
Not gonna lie, like he has nothing to do in LFL another year.
Yep.
Did Davide leave us or what happened?
I'm not sure.
Do you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can. We just
Yeah,
can't
we
see
hear.
her.
Yeah,
I'm not sure how I can fix this, so I just
no problem.
Well, I think the Video Ninja link is working, but just doesn't have any input into it.
okay.
You try and
So
fix it. We can
um,
keep going. So
Yeah,
no,
the
no,
people.
I'm like here. I know.
Yeah,
Wait.
that's all right.
Like the VOD Ninja link works for me though, so I'm not
Oh, weird.
sure.
it was
Uh,
an interesting thing with G2, that the fact that, I don't know if you heard that, but the fact that they actually
people reaching
didn't.
out.
Yeah, they didn't they, like, I think Inspired and Busio reached out to them and they weren't interested.
Yeah, inspired
And also
Busio and
aiming,
aiming. Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's weird because like initially when that came out, a lot of the, I guess like the fans' reactions were like clowning on G2 for not accepting that. It's like in particular Inspired and Busio, having had like obviously a really good spell with FlyQuest, and then people coming in and being like, "Oh my god, you know, what a fumble from G2 to not have signed them." I don't know. For me, it didn't make. It doesn't. It's not like a shock that they wouldn't do it, especially the jungle. Like I get that Inspired, you know, has been the best Western jungler recently, but Humon is like clearly a project player. Um, you know, they have these players down for like a number of years. It's not that easy just to replace somebody, and yeah, you've got a whole other salary to keep paying. And G2, as we've discussed last week or the week before, that they also were a team that looked, you know, better and better throughout the year. Like, and it clearly was a project, especially with Skumon particularly coming in as this sought after rookie. You wouldn't do that just to get him for 1 year and then dump him when you can get, you know, a bit more of a finished product in. And I imagine Inspired is going to be on like very good money this year as well, where he's ended up. So it's not like these are very obvious cut and dry transfers that G2 just like absolutely should have made as soon as they got offered it.
Yeah. I don't even think that will be that much of like, I don't even think Inspired or Busio would have been big upgrades for G2. Like even maybe not an upgrade at all. Like to me, Inspired would have been an upgrade in the, like, when he joins, right? Like right now, Inspired is a better and more complete player than Skumond. But Skumond is in LEC since 1 year, and in summer he was already looking like the best player in the league. So you have to give him time, and you know that he's a player that can be very reliable if you give him time and if you give him confidence. I feel like. So yeah, I do think that already Skumon right now in summer has been by far the best jungler in the league, and I don't even want people to tell me that yeah, maybe because he has the best laners in the world, that's more easy or something. Like he has the best laners in Europe. Like to me, it's not even real. Like to me, Caps didn't do his best season in summer at all. I do think that in spring and winter he was kind of on his own. Not gonna lie, but in summer, Caps wasn't the best player in G2 at all. Like to me, the two main carries in G2 in summer, and that's when they looked completely unbeatable. It was both Skumon and Labrov, which had like insane progression. To me, they had insane growth. Those two might be the most improved player in the league this year. So yeah, I just think that Busio would have been maybe a side grade to Labrov, so not very interesting when you know that you've built your whole synergy around your mid jungle and the fact that it worked so good in the end in summer. To me, it would not have made sense to change something for just a side grade, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, completely fair to me that they kept the same roster. Aiming to me is not even a discussion. Like this guy may have the worst image of the whole scene right now in Europe. Like I don't know how it's going in Korea, but right now in Europe, this guy wouldn't be wanted. I feel like, and also I think on Sama also improved a lot this year. I already said it a lot on this podcast, but I think on Sama was insane this year, and that improved a lot on most of his weaknesses actually, which were teamfight and stuff, and carries that wants you to click to have very good mechanics. So so yeah, I'm just hoping that they keep on the same trajectory, the same upward trajectory that they started to create in summer, and that yeah, if they keep growing, if they really keep growing and don't rest on what they already learned this year, I think this team can be very scary next year. Not gonna lie, I think they can win all 3 splits. You know, if they just keep the grind.
Yep.
And Inspired and Busio wouldn't have got you very much farther, right? Like if you can win the 3 splits with this roster, why would you change, right?
That makes sense. And also, like the fact that they got Skumon in as a rookie, especially, I doubt he's on like crazy money either. So, like to end up like paying out over the odds for Inspired to, like you say, maybe even just get a side grade, doesn't really make sense to go for that really at all. Especially where they would have had to probably kept paying Skumon anyway, unless they could get rid of him.
No, I think they would have been like it would have been very easy to get rid of him.
Probably,
given
yeah,
how
true.
many teams would have had an upgrade with Kumon, but yeah.
Right, next few teams we can kind of skip over a little bit because there's not too many changes. Or there's ones we talked about already. So Giant.X looks like it's going to be the same roster. So I guess the only one was maybe like so I think Isma just got confirmed that they're definitely sticking with him.
Yeah.
And the only other thing is like maybe if the Fnatic go back in
Jun,
for
yeah.
Jun and make another bid. I'm not sure how likely that is. But yeah, at least for Giant.X sticking together, which I guess maybe for like Gyoto is in particular needs to get some more results, I'd imagine then, because you know, when their roster was put together at the start of last year, it was one that people were pretty excited about, and like I think even like coming out of like the early scrims, people like teams were saying that they looked really good, but then in the end it ended up being like a bit of a slow, like a slow improvement through the year, and they maybe weren't quite as explosive as people were hoping. So for his sake, you know, I think they need to it needs to kind of click more this year, but we'll see. Carmine Corp, as we say, we've gone through all that last week. Movistar Koi, no changes there. Na'Vi then has completed the roster supposedly with Mainta top lane, Relec I don't know how you say that, but Relec, the jungler who the guy they got last year, like that they had intended to be starting this year already. But yeah, then Poby coming in as the mid lane, who had a few offers, I think. So obviously Fnatic were getting rid of him to make room for Vladdy. But yeah, I think Vitality are interested as well.
Yep.
I feel like I saw his name for somewhere else as well, but yeah, he had a few different options. Navi
Yeah.
being the winners in the end, and yeah, Han Sumd and Paris as well. So that's an interesting one where, yeah, if
I love it. Navi, I love it. I think it's the most interesting roster to watch next year. Like
Yeah, I'm
outside
actually
of
really
the top
excited
contenders.
about Navi as well.
Mm.
Because I think they
Because
really put a really good, like, promising roster together. Like, you could argue that they're all very young. And that could likely be a thing. By the way, I'm back on camera.
Yep.
Good. And but like all of these players seem like with really great potential. So I'm just waiting to see it happen. Like Maynard and Relach was one of the most anticipated junglers I know in the scene for quite a while. Maynard was obviously on KCB, and then obviously he showed up great as far as I know. I mean, Poby, honestly, I'm not sure about you guys, but I don't think like you could argue that Vladi is a bit better than Poby, but I don't think it's that much of a
I think
upgrade.
they're very different in the way they play the
Yeah,
game.
of course. I just judging on based on like last season performance. I don't think the gap is that big. So like I think actually Navi won out a lot by getting someone who is technically way above Larson's uh
Yeah,
recent form, I would say.
and
And then
they don't even need, like, I think they didn't even need a player like Vladdy that is, that guy who will clutch it out or that will make the mechanical
yeah,
outplay or stuff. I think they really needed a player that is very stable in lane like Bobby,
yes,
because of the
yes.
fact
And
that
then
Relec is a very aggressive jungler, that Paris
yeah,
wants to play with his jungler to be enabled, and if they have a strong mid laner that can just win lane and be ahead and have priority on the lane, I do think that they will be very happy with that, and they will do
yeah,
the flashy
okay.
stuff, like Relec on Samji, they will be the one that will carry the team fights. They are the one that are those kind of players. So see you, Davide. Um, but yeah, and I do think that also when it comes to mentality, because I think it's a big issue with some teams right now. I think Paris had a lot of struggles because of that in PDS this year, and that's the main reason why he got why you didn't met the expectations placed in him at all. I think that a player like Mainter is probably the best asset you can have in that regard, because from what I heard from every of the players that played with him, from his coaches, from stuff, I only heard that he was an insane captain, an insane, like, the kind of player that just will keep the grind with the players that he's surrounded with, will push them forward. And I think that's a very important thing when you are looking to build a roster that wants to be competitive for a full year. Especially when you have a gaming house that you play all the games in Berlin and stuff. I do think that having this kind of player that will, just um, solidify all your collective, your group of players. I think it's very very important, and Mentor is clearly that, from what I heard from every of the players and coaches that works with him. So yeah, very interested to see that, and I think this roster might be actually the only one that can, get some games against the top four right now, or let's say the top three, because we don't know what Fnatic will look like. So I think the top three with KC, obviously MKOI and G2. I think that Navi, if they find the right synergy, if the players meet the expectations placed in them, they are the one who can, um, like uh, like annoy them.
Enough. This makes me think as well. Just seeing another KCB player potentially go into another LEC team. It's just kind of like re-triggered me about how stupid it is to to have the EU Masters winner in winter when you know like all their team's going to get poached, because that's the whole point of winning the EU Masters, is that you get a spot on the LEC. So it might only be Yukino, but we'll come to that one anyway. So if we keep going through the rest, then SK, we already know that they're winning the league. We've seen their roster already, full of superstars. BDS is another one that's a bit up in the air still. So Trimby back in Europe is quite nice to see.
Their IDC is Paddock. We didn't register it, but their IDC will be Paddock according to the leaks.
See, so well, okay then they're not up in the air then, they're all sorted. But yeah, nice to see Trimby back, because Trimby was one that, one of these players where it happens, like might happen with Upset now, although to a lesser degree, but where where you just get someone that's doesn't look like they don't deserve to be in the league, and then roster shuffles happen, and they just by chance sometimes end up not having a spot. So yeah, he made the kind of unique trip, obviously, to go over to play in Brazil for a year, which you don't see very often from. Well, you see if there's imports in Brazil, it's Korean imports, like it is with
There's
most
also
teams.
French an LFL import,
Oh really?
which is Tukui.
Oh,
Have you
did he
heard
play
of him?
there?
Yeah.
He's been
He
around
played
everywhere,
actually.
though,
He played in LCS at some point. I think he played with FlyQuest.
Yeah.
Some years ago, and then he joined Brazil.
Yeah. So but yeah. So apart from that, it's just a bot lane change then, with Ice leaving as well to go to Heretics, who have changed ADC, and the spring MVP Camelu is off as well. He's going to KCB, I think. Do we have that in here? That further down. So KCB, they've got Camelu. Yukino is the only one that's confirmed to stay. And that was like its own story as well. So it was reported that FlyQuest had actually were gonna offer a buyout. Well, did offer a buyout. So FlyQuest apparently had agreed $100,000 with Carmine Corp, and Yukino rejected it.
Euros. It's more than
euros.
dollars.
Oh, fair enough. But Yukino rejected, which is very bold. Like, I could understand, because that was the talk. Like, what would he do? Would he stay another year? And we'd kind of discussed it as well. Like, staying in that environment that clearly he was thriving in. Staying for another year wouldn't be bad, because obviously, if you've got 2 years of looking great on a top ERL team, then you're going to have great offers, rather than having to like take whatever tier 1 team you can get. But going to FlyQuest doesn't seem like any old offer. Like, they've been one of the top orgs in LCS the last couple of years.
Yeah, but
Like,
they are
seem more
rebuilding
run.
right now. Like, they're not. I don't think they will be as good as they were the past 2 years.
Yeah.
Because we don't know who will be their support. I think. We know that it will be Gagos on the plane, which, like, we don't know how we will do, because he's still a rookie, right? Even though I think he's very promising. Like, Masu didn't look his best during this year. Not gonna lie, like he didn't follow the upward trajectory that he started building in 2024 to me. So yeah, I just don't think that. I do think that anyway it was a good project, right? It was not a bottom team at all, and it wouldn't have been a bottom team at all. The only thing with FlyQuest is that in the end, Yukino was very happy in KCB. I'm not sure he was that happy in NA, from what I heard, even talking with him. And also I think I don't know if you saw it, but there's a L'Equipe article where they're actually talking about that buyout from 100K, confirming that it was, and they're also saying that maybe in winter they are already thinking, KC, of maybe loaning him to a team, and put him on a loan to maybe put him in tier 1 still. So maybe they agreed on that. Maybe Yukino was fine with that, being on a loan from KCB after winter, so he plays in tier 1 all year maybe, and then next year he can join KC if they don't want Jake anymore, or anything, or if they want to change jungle, or if they feel like Yukino in tier 1 was up to the challenge, even had more like looked more promising than a Yike or something, then they can make a choice, you know. So I think that's very smart from KC, thinking long terms, you know, especially because of their project right now being very short termist. When you look at the names and what they are looking to build, like with the Korean imports and stuff, you can think that this roster is looking like very short term ish, you know. So if you have a player like Yukino that actually can push Yike to perform as best as he can this year, and if not, take his place, like you are securing also future with that move, and that's very interesting.
Yeah.
So yeah, very very good move from KC, even though they lost I think a lot of money in this offseason. Like not gonna lie, not selling Yukino. Like I do think that's why the Vladi move is taking that long, is that they want to make the most out of that buyout. I
Yeah.
do feel like.
Well, it's interesting. There's a few things to go on there. Then, I wonder how they can agree that, like, or how they can be confident about a loan. Because if you, I understand obviously the premise that they'll say to Yukino, like, right, well, you play with KCB for the Los Ratones
LEC versus.
Invitational, and then and then after that, obviously he would be generally would be going down back to the LFL. So they would agree, right, we'll loan you up to an LEC or an LCS team. That does need the guarantee that there's going to be, after the first split, that there is going to be an LCS or LEC team that's already looking to change their jungler, and it's one that he's happy to play on. Which, like, I don't see how they can guarantee that. Imagine
like they can guarantee that, but they are, from what we heard in the paper, they're already thinking about doing it. So it's
right.
not made, right? If he needs to stay in LFL, he will. But if they can find a spot for him that is interesting both for them and for him, to put him on a loan, I think it's the best move you can do, because you will have like a glimpse of what your player can do on the tier 1 stage at the LEC versus, and then you can have a glimpse of how we can evolve after a split in tier 1, for a second split in tier 1, right? So it's very interesting if they can do that. Even I think if it's on a mid team, or I don't think they will loan him on a low team. Like I don't see that really, but you never know. And
Yeah.
I think that in the mid of the table team, it's very interesting to see how he can evolve.
And then another thing with KC, the main team, which isn't an urgent worry now, but I think something to kind of like keep an eye on throughout the year then, is that I think this is Kalis last year on his contract, and you know that would be the one piece that you'd think out of anyone they want long term, and they'd want to build around long term.
Sure.
And if you know they're already like maxed out budgets for the roster for this year, if they can't get him to re-sign during the season, Kalist may end up this time next year as a free agent with his choice of where he wants to go. And obviously we know
with G2,
yeah, we
G2
know from the
knocking at the
past
door,
G2
especially.
are waiting, like, you know, apparently they had that mega offer like last year already to try and get him in. So
Yeah, and even if they didn't, we know they're gonna have one when he will be free agent. And I also think that's why it's taking so much time to resign him, right? I think that he wants to have guarantees that the team is gonna be playing for the top of the table, and also for international tournaments all year long. And that's a big reason on will he stay or not. Because if KC doesn't this year, then he just has to go. Like he doesn't have to to spend like 2 more years building something with KC that is not that experimented in LEC and on the international stage. He just has to join G2 and follow the process, and they will take him to an international tournament. You know, to international tournaments consistently. So. So yeah, I do think that this is why also KC banked a lot on this year, because they know this is the year where they have to
convincing him.
to convince him and to put all the resources they can to keep him next year. So yeah, I do think that the resources they allocated maybe will give them a big hit on next off season if things don't go well this year. But if it does go well, it might be a paying gamble, both for the long terms with Casey, with Kelly's probably staying, but also for the short term, because they would have exceed um, exceed their past year results.
Welcome back, Davide. Again.
I'm back.
Let's just go through quickly the last couple of teams, and then maybe we can spend 5 minutes or so on a couple of LCS things if there's anything interesting there. But yeah, the last ones then is basically all known as well. Is Los Ratones that are keeping their team. So the one rumor that did come out, goodbye Davide, is that
Oh shit.
is it if you tab out or something maybe. Anyway.
No. It's like it's my VPN doing wonders.
Oh right. Yeah, it's that. So there's rumor that Yamato Kana is actually going to be the coach
With Shaves.
for with Shaves as well for LEC versus, I guess, so that Cajal can like still co-stream things and not be kind of doing both at the same time.
Yeah, imagine if he's just like he just drafts and then go back on co-streams and say, "Hey, I'm back, guys, in front of the LEC Stadium." Like it's not working, right?
Yeah,
and how
exactly.
does it do the review and stuff? Like no, it doesn't. Too much to it that doesn't fit.
Yeah, and then Vitality. Obviously, the thing with them already was Humanoid in mid. It hadn't been like properly reported or confirmed about the bot lane, but it's just like pretty much presumed now that that they will stay. The one thing,
Fleshy is not sure yet, but Kazi is 100% yeah.
right? And then the other thing was, who's going to be the head coach? There was already confirmed, or it was already rumored about assistant coach. I will say, keep an eye on Hotspawn's league coverage because there will be an interview coming out. Basically, as soon as their roster drops, we'll have an interview out with whoever their head coach is, and it's.
Ooh, so you know maybe Lee.
Maybe the interview's already happened, and maybe it was a bit of a banger. I'm not gonna lie. Like even getting the tea on like all the Hylissang stuff, why Hylissang's stuck around for so long, and
I discussed this a bit with the guy. I think you maybe discussed with already, but I discussed it a bit about Hylissang, and it was very interesting to see why this happened. All the thought process between like the Linsa Hylissang synergy not working because one is very LPL style, the other was not.
Yeah. I think
but
what's going to be interesting when it comes out is that like because they I mean they got so much shit the whole time for sticking with Hylissang and never really gave a proper clarification, and now there will be publicly just like kind of laying it all out there, giving the explanation and kind of clearing things up really. And I think it will be I think it will change how you kind of see that whole saga, and I think it just does help to clear things up a bit. But I'm gonna stop talking about it because it's annoying when you
for people to know, just for people to know, most likely because I don't know about the interview Lee did, so I can talk freely, most likely it will be Pad being the head coach. What is even funnier is that he is already like writing tweets about I will do a stream to explain the off-season moves and stuff while he's not even confirmed on any leaks. So it's kind of funny why they're taking that much time. But yeah, we already knew from an interview with Hotspot that he wanted to split up with Mac. So this will most likely happen. They already locked in Arvinjir, which was the head coach of the LFL team of Vitality this year. So they already locked him as an assistant coach, and most likely it should be Pad taking on the role of the head coach instead of Mac.
Who?
Pad.
I'm joking.
You don't know about him?
Who's that?
Okay.
Never heard of him. Never spoken to him. Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Let's just for a couple of minutes. We'll have a quick look at LCS. If there's anything, was there anything that jumped out to you guys in the LCS?
APA taking the place of Loki in Cloud9. I think it's interesting. I think it's interesting because like APA was not wanted by Team Liquid anymore. Like he was kicked out kinda. Especially because they wanted to bank a lot on Quid. There was all that war between KC and Team Liquid for first Kana which KC won, then Quid, that Team Liquid eventually won. And they put a big bag for that, I can tell you. I think he will be one of the most paid player in the LCS. But yeah, kind of interesting to see that is like joining kind of a veteran team, you know, with Blabbers, Van, Vulcan. This is a veteran team in Cloud9, and he's kind of used to it already because that's kind of the team he already had with Team Liquid, with like veterans like Impact, Gen.G and stuff. Um, but yeah, if that roster stay the same, I think it will be interesting. I also think Thanatos um, wasn't put in the best conditions this year in drafts when it mattered the most and stuff. So it will be interesting to see how he evolves because I think he has a lot of potential and he already proved it kind of this year. But yeah, outside of that, I think there's also one big thing with the LCS is next year Lion is
Yeah.
cooking. Like he's cooking very
Do
very hard.
I'd heard the name of them from just from like generally loosely following, but I had no idea they had money. Like I'm guessing they've got a lot of money, or maybe they just suddenly got a lot of money.
I can tell you they did got a lot of money to bring all those names. Like Inspired will be the highly paid player in LCS.
Yeah.
And from what we heard, maybe the second highest paid player in the West after Caps. Then we have Saint, which is an insane prospect from LCKCL that already played with Lion last year, but with a way less good roster than this year. So it will be very interesting to see how he evolves because he was already looking very good last year with a much worse roster than this one. And then we have Berserker, who is just coming off a split in LCK. So and that is already familiar with the LCS environment because he already came in, he's fluent in English and stuff. So it's not like every import that is kind of hard to, to adapt to a
Yeah.
new environment. He already knows. So
Was he any
so
good
yeah.
in LCK?
Uh, Not really. I think like signing in LCK as an AGC is not funny, man. Like there's so much talent, but I don't think he was like looking like a clown or something. You know, he was just not very good. Like, but his
You mean
team wasn't that good
Berserker?
either. Yeah,
I mean, the guy was the best player on his team in DNF last season.
yeah,
Clearly, like he was consistently the one trying to carry. I don't think he was actually that bad, to be honest. Like, definitely, it's an upgrade to whatever they had last year.
yeah, yeah.
For
But for
me,
sure,
the
and
main
actually,
thing
Berserker was the best AG in LCS the
in
past
the
2 years with
LCS
C9.
when he
Yeah,
first came in, yeah. So like, it's not like if the synergy with Isles turns out to work out quite well, I think you have a, an interesting lineup, I guess.
mm.
Because I don't think like Zamudo, I'm not sure how it's called. He was supposed to come mid-season last year, but then had visa issues. I'm sorry, like I mean this year. But he had visa issues and basically he couldn't play. But like he was one of the like domestic talents, like NA talents that everyone was hyping him up. So it kind of we kind of have to see whether it's actually he lives up to the expectations, you know. But
Yeah.
definitely like Lion seems like an interesting pickup. I think actually for me the most exciting one is actually still like you could argue that TL has an interesting lineup with
Yep.
Morgan. Morgan and Quaid with Core GJ, Eon, and am I blanking out for the jungler? Did they announce it? No.
Jose Diodo.
Uh, yeah, Jose Diodo. But actually, I'm interested in SR Shopify
Yeah, true.
with the
They bring Zini. Wow.
Zini pickup. Like, I'm
Yeah.
not sure how that went. How like they probably threw out some bag at him, but the fact that you have SR who looked like the third best team in the LTA, sorry, this season, aside from like that last playoff thingy, the fact that you could argue that Fudge and Contracts are good domestic talents with the bottling of B-Voy and Ceos being quite stable, I guess, is that, and having then a clear upgrade in the mid lane if Zini lives up to the expectations that everyone has been talking about. It definitely seems like a very interesting roster. I look forward to. Like, I definitely think that this year's the LCS rebrand, the return of the LCS made it clear that teams are now willing to invest a lot more, and like the talent is also being
Oh,
You've muted
we
Davide.
can't hear you
interesting season
anymore.
this time around. Oh, you lost me for a second.
Yeah, we lost
Yeah.
like the
My
middle
back,
of the
yes.
sentence.
No, I mean just like the fact that the LCS is definitely more interesting to watch than next year, to me at least for the first part. I think they're like, at least you could argue there's like TL, C9, like with Sly and SR potentially competing for top spots. Um, so I'm excited to see. And then also you can also never discount, like, you know, this guy that Dignitas, and then
They've got like
I'm blanking out again.
nothing rumored yet, haven't they? Both of them.
I
So
mean, these
Dignitas is
guys has to
Photon
play
top.
the promotion. I think they
Ah,
have the
right,
promotion tournament coming up, so I'm not sure whether they can change or they are allowed
right.
to make changes to the roster after that. For Dignitas, I think they'll just pick up the scraps. I would assume.
Yeah, and then the
I
other
don't
one is
see.
the other one's Sentinels, which got apparently Dark Wings mid, Rahel and Huhi ADC support,
I
and then
mean,
top and jungle
about
Justified.
Sentinels, I'm actually interested because I thought initially the one that would make sense would run back the 100 Thieves lineup, but apparently they only managed to get Golden Glue.
Yep.
Yeah, I just saw from the interview he's doing, I think with Don Jake at the moment, Dokler apparently has said on that interview that he's most likely not got a team.
Yeah. So it's like, I'm wondering now, because the thing is, Rahel is still an import, who he is not. Darkwings is domestic. Reaver is gone because I think he has to go to military, if I'm correct. So I'm wondering who they'll try to pick up in top and jungle. I think they might obviously go for another import if they wanted to. Um, but I'm not sure on which role. I think top lane would probably be a better choice.
For a bit of context, just about Zini, I heard that he was paid less. He would be paid less than a quid, for example. So Team Liquid banked more on a quid than Shopify banked on a Zini. And
I
I'm not
mean,
sure
I
about
wouldn't be
this because
surprised though. Like Quid was the best mid laner in the LTA, and like Zini played only in second tier, even though he was
sure,
like,
but
you
the
know,
expectation put on Zini the past few years, knowing that he was, a bit jailed by KT, even though they had BGG in front ahead of him, like all that stuff, you want to believe that Zini is a generational talent that can just own the league in LCS. So I
yeah.
want to believe that actually, and especially by watching some of his highlights, some of his plays. I didn't watch a lot of LCKCL, but I did watch some games, and in final it was always there because KT Academy is insanely talented. In the past few years in LCKCL, but so knowing all of that, I know that he has an insane ceiling, like insane ceiling. This guy is kind of the guy that you want to wake up at uh, at 6 a.m. to watch him play, because he's just like very mechanical, very clutch. He's having montage after montage. So yeah, I'm kind of very 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 hyped to see such a talent finally playing in Tier One. And from what I heard, he he didn't want at first because I know that Casey was interested in the profile. So I kind of digged into that, and I heard that he wasn't willing to give to actually see options in EU because he thought he could get something in LCK first. So he first watched in LCK, and then when he saw that he wouldn't have an interesting project in LCK, he watched in other regions, and so we heard a lot of LPL willing to try him or some stuff with LNG and stuff. In the end, apparently, just Shopify, when they heard he was on the market, they just all in on him, and that's worse. They just went in. So yeah, the thing is, when KC reached the verbal with Kiao, they Zini wasn't willing to give to explore options in EU or even in LCS probably. And then after that, when you understood that he couldn't find a project in LCK, it was already too late for KC.
Yeah. That would have been the one
Rip.
for 8. That would have been HLE's option then, I guess. Like the one they could have gone for.
I'm not sure. Like you can go ahead BDD right now. Like it's not possible.
No, HLE I'm saying, if they wanted to get rid
Oh,
of Zeka.
HLE. Oh, yeah. Nah, he's too young like. He still has his flaws, Like even though he's very hyped up and stuff, he's not like the best laner so far. So yeah, and I do think that if you're not the best laner in LCK, you kind of paying the big price for it,
Right, let's wrap up our longest ever episode. Now
Really?
that I think we just we get like 5 minutes longer every week. I think the last one was longest, and we've beaten it by 4 minutes already. Not that I'm complaining, but now that we're mostly seeing how the rosters are looking, let's just go all in early doors and give our predictions on who wins Worlds next
Ooh.
year.
Oh, okay. Because I would say that early to actually
No,
give
bro, you
predictions.
cannot
Come
do
on.
this to me.
I'm fine doing it.
I'll
I
say
would say.
T1. I'll say T1.
You're taking
I'll jump
so
the
much
gun.
risks, man.
I don't care.
BLG. We're getting our
Ooh.
first Chinese mid laner to win Worlds.
Okay, I'd say.
And you go bold this early. If it pays off, it looks so good. So it's worth the risk.
Okay, I'd go with Gen.G then.
3 decent options, I reckon.
No one believes in HLE. I'm sorry.
As long as Zeka is in. Actually, it will depend on the meta. Like, if the meta shift to Assassins or Akali Silas, I'm down. I'm down. I'm down to bank on
I
HLE.
could see a world next season where like HLE wins it though.
Yeah,
I'm
same.
not like counting them out. Unless they pull off some stupid shenanigans in the jungle and they end up with a no-namer.
Actually, they have two world champions, at least 2 or 3 times. Like they have the experience. In the
They
roster
have
right
3
now.
world champions if Zeka stays, by the way.
Yeah, that's true. 3 world champions.
Yeah, I was gonna say like last week we had a bit of stick for going too hard on a world champion Doran. This week we just can't help ourselves. Zeka, world champion Zeka. We're like we need to show some respect to these guys. I think we need to fuck our actions up.
We need to be honest as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, let's leave it there then, because I can barely keep my eyes open. We're coming up on 1:30 in the morning, and I'm not a late night gamer anymore. Those days are long gone. So I'm about to go off to bed. Davide, enjoy your day since it's
Thank you. It's
since
bright day
started.
now. It's literally so sunny outside now.
Yeah, and thanks for your time, guys, as always, and thanks for everybody for watching as well. We'll catch you next week. Because we are doing this weekly now, actually. League of Legends from now on, every single week. So no need to wait 2 weeks to hear our thoughts. So we'll see you next week. Catch you later.
See you.
See you guys.